video talking about the times that we are living in and why we have gotten here.
Good
So
morning,
let's
John.
watch this as a juxtaposition to the last video.
In this video, I would like to try to explain what the hell is going on, which I know is a tall order and is going to be imprecise, but we're going to do our best. Everyone lives through unprecedented times, but a thing I keep thinking, especially when I'm looking down at an 8-year-old boy who's probably going to be alive in the year 2100, is how weird is this really? How weird is his life going to be? And John, I'd like to make the case that very. Like, his life is going to be historically weird. My son is going to grow up in a world that has been fractured by a set of circumstances that the world has not seen for more than 500 years. Now, media technologies absolutely do evolve and change, and there are new ones all the time, but I'd like to start, if you will forgive me, talking a little bit about radio, which I think we think of radio as one of the most boring communications technologies there is, just a way to get music that we didn't pick, interspersed by ads that are at least locally relevant. So let's put ourselves into the minds of people back in the early 1900s. It's hard to over-exaggerate how powerful radio was when it first hit, which was not 500 years ago. We're going to get there. We're starting with radio. Radio was invented in the 1890s, but it wasn't until the 1920s that lots of people started having radios in their homes, and by the 1930s, they were cheap and easy to get. And I need you to imagine for a moment how extremely weird this technology must have been. For most people, the radio was the first time in their lives that they heard music without the musician being physically near to them. That was the world less than 100 years ago. But more relevant here, it was the first time that one person's voice could reach millions of people, and it could do that in real time. In fact, at first, it could only do that in real time. This was all happening at the same time as the Great Depression. People had good reasons to be pretty dissatisfied with their situations, and this wasn't just an American thing. Europe was also struggling, especially Germany, which had been hit hard by having to pay reparations to the winners of World War I, though how much that contributed to things is apparently debated by historians, of which I am not one. People were not in great places. There was demand for, people wanted things to blame their circumstances on. And for a few reasons, radio was much better at satisfying that demand than newspapers. Newspapers had been around for a long time. They were more expensive. You had to pay for them every time you wanted a new one. There was also more regulation and structure around them. People had built up an understanding that newspapers were sometimes trying to manipulate them, so they had some built-in wariness. Radio, on the other hand, was brand new. It was a one-time investment. You didn't need to be literate, which many people weren't. You didn't need to go into this city to buy a new one every day. And more than anything, it was magical. Like, I have a hard time imagining how new and weird and wonderful it must have been to, like, listen to a charismatic person talk to me from 1,000 miles away. And what a spell that must have cast. And also to know that people...
I mean, that's, dare I say, that's how it was like on the early days of the internet, where you would find like these really niche forums of people talking about very niche things that you knew nothing about. It was really cool. Or, I mean, if you go even like the earliest days of the internet, do you guys remember the very beginning, the very, very, very beginning of, not quite hacks or cheats in video games, but like strats in video games? Like, I remember playing video games and then being like struggling, eventually beating it, and then looking online back when GameSpot or like game FAQs used to be good, and being like, whoa, you can do that. Oh my God, I have to go back and play this game. Like, oh, that was so cool. That was such a cool time to be alive, because prior to that, there was nothing. There was just, you'd played this game to the best of your ability, and if you could beat it, you could beat it, and if you couldn't, you couldn't. That was so awesome. It was so fucking awesome, dude. Old School EverQuest was like that. I remember seeing guides for Harvest Moon Back to Nature. Yeah, dude. I remember the first time I played a Harvest Moon game, I was like 15 or something. And prior to that, I'd never even heard about video games like that. And I remember looking up like what gifts you have to give and like the birthdays and all that stuff. And I was like, it was just like a very unique experience, because that didn't exist before then. It just didn't. your cousin or your friend that played more than you, or like your cousin was your only source before then, yeah. And like for me as a kid, I didn't really have anyone around me that played games. So I was better than my siblings because my siblings got games and they didn't really like them and they didn't play them. My sisters didn't really care for games that much. And I loved them. So I played the fuck out of every single game and I insisted on beating every single game. And I also didn't end up getting any friends that played video games in school because I mean, like, I kind of just got bullied a lot. And also, the only friends I made were girls, and girls generally didn't play video games. So I didn't have anyone. It was just me. So, like, the first time being able to see other people on the internet talk about enjoying games and the cool things they found in games it was so cool. I remember the first time I found out about like Easter eggs, like no, learning what that is and learning that people collect these. And I remember the first days of Achievement Hunter. Oh my God, it was just so, it was so cool. It was so, so, so cool. And now it's just like, you try to fucking find out how a quest operates and you're like bombarded with links from fucking Dexerto or GameSpot, and it's like, are you looking to find out how this quest is? Well, here's the thing. Now, I'm sure you're thinking about how this quest initially starts by you starting this dialogue with this character. They then present, it's like, oh my God, please. And then the end of the article is like, we don't yet know how the quest ends. It's like, next link down is Fextra Life with no information in the wiki. Break my fucking monitor. And now AI slop, as if it wasn't bad enough. Oh my God, dude. The rage. It used to be all good. It used to be you could Google this stuff and the first result was a good result. And the second result was a good result. And they got straight to the point. Oh. Oh. Anyways, yeah. And I imagine radio was like that for people once upon a time also, because it was like, whoa, this is the first time you had ever been able to speak to or hear from another person that wasn't in your immediate circle. You really don't know how to Google, do you? Wow, you sound really big and smart and strong. You're not single by any chance. You don't. Could you come and Google some stuff for me? You just seem really smart. Dot, dot, dot. But sexy. I've always wanted to learn how to Google things.
All over my country, we're hearing the same speech at the same time, and we're all there together experiencing it, millions of us. There were also, in the beginning, very few legal regulations on radio, and I think just as powerfully, if not more powerfully, there were no mental regulations.
Sorry, Leslie. Damn, the sarcasm doesn't make you better. Dot, dot, dot. I wasn't being sarcastic. I wasn't being sarcastic. I was being genuine and honest, okay? I'm sorry that you've been so hurt by other women that you don't understand what a genuinely interested woman looks like anymore. All right. You need to move past your trauma. Pedron, thank you for the prime.
There were no norms.
Dot, dot,
People's minds were just open to this, to have a person speaking to them. You might go and like watch a talk or a debate or something, but otherwise the only people talked to were their friends. And this was a new way that strangers, powerful, charismatic strangers, could speak to you. For example, Father Coughlin, who was one of the first radio preachers, and he tapped into specifically this dissatisfaction. He connected with and empathized with normal, everyday...
Why is the TDS just cutting off on its own, dude? Milnors, thank you so much for the 3 months. Give my money to Denims instead of Bezos. Yes. Guys, use your primes. Remember, every day that you are not using your primes, you are making Bezos just a little bit more rich.
Ordinary Americans. He spoke about elitist power structures, the banks, the inequality, and not all but certainly some of the Jews. Atheistic Jews, communist Jews. Millions of people listened to these broadcasts. He was an extraordinarily powerful figure in the US, and as Hitler rose to power in Germany, in part because he was also super savvy at using the radio to communicate with the common people of Germany, Father Coughlin spoke about him with great appreciation and interest. I'm simplifying a ton here, but there's something happening here. It is a post-media revolution rise in populism. And it happens pretty much every time there's a media revolution. But populism begins not as the ideology, but the marketing. I'm seeing people get this wrong all over the place right now. Populism is not an ideology, it's a marketing strategy. I see your real human problems, and I also see who is causing them. All of the institutions that are impenetrable and imperfect, but also the people those institutions are secretly supporting at your expense, or controlled by to your detriment. And if you listen to me, we will solve all the problems with a number of new policies. But
this is literally how Trump won. Trump is by no means a common man who gives a single shit about anyone who makes less than $1 million. But populism narrative. Obsolete Bullet, thank you for the Prime 7 months. Sound Soul, thank you for the Prime. Some sad, fat white guy. That's such a good name. Thank you for the Prime. Sally Cat, thank you for the tier 1.
Sometimes populism actually becomes the policy. It goes from being the message to being what we're going to do. Here are the bad guys. The policy is get rid of the bad guys. That's what happened with Father Coughlin. It's what happened with Nazi Germany. Father Coughlin actually started...
Do you guys see why I wanted to juxtapose the Asmongold video with this video? Like, Asmongold video is literally just... I think that there's a lot of censorship or something, and then we're going to stop censoring, and I think it's good, and now that's what's happening. It's like, oh my god, I'm losing brain cells. Christ. Whereas this one is like, whoa, cool, we're learning about radio. We're learning about these people who reached these other people by using these methods. And then he's going to compare it, presumably, to what is happening exactly in our current times, except with the internet and with the unbelievable slop that exists on the internet. Stone Vermin, thank you for the Prime.
Advocate for the U.S. to work with Nazi Germany. He was an extremely harsh critic of FDR. He began to say very Nazi-like things about what Americans should do to Jews. But as the tensions between the U.S. and Germany rose, that became untenable, and the public and the government persuaded radio stations to stop carrying his broadcasts. Even though Coughlin remained popular, FDR basically said, no, this guy cannot talk to the American people anymore. This isn't print. It's radio, it's new, it's a limited public resource, it's a spectrum that we can't fit everything on, and this is one of the things we can't fit on it. And I think this was a fairly clear violation of the freedom of speech. Father Coughlin drifted into obscurity. He became a normal priest again. He died the year before I was born. So people are thinking probably right now, okay, so Trump is like the Coughlin of the internet age, or like the Hitler of the internet age. And like a little bit, like you can see it in there, like the alignment with people's legitimate grievances, the railing against every institution from public schools to doctors, the use of a new, somewhat magical...
The promise that he will fix all of these issues and that he is not part of these issues despite him being a person in a position of power. Sally Cat, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. Thank you. Erotic, thank you so much for the Prime. Williver, thank you so much for the Prime. Thank you, guys.
Unregulated communications technology to name those threats and label who is responsible for them as the enemy. Trump is the product of a post-media revolution rise in populism. I don't think anyone would argue with that. That does not mean that he is the same guy as Coughlin or Hitler. But it is interesting that he is a product of a phenomenon that we have seen before. But also, he's not like these other guys in another way, because I don't think that radio is the best analogy for the internet. Radio and TV are centralizing, whereas the internet is decentralizing. What do I mean? Well, to make a radio station, you need advanced technology, lots of money, you need permission. It's very easy to regulate because there are only so many radio frequencies, and governments actually had to quite quickly move in and regulate who would have access to them, or stations would constantly be overlapping with each other, or the most powerful, wealthiest person could just take up the whole radio spectrum. Television has been the same. There were only so many channels, each tightly regulated. They're very expensive to run, and in the beginning, there was only space for 3 or 4 of them. This media revolution, because it was so centralizing, was a force that actually ended up being quite useful for bringing America and other countries together, reducing the number of voices that could be heard, thus silencing many marginal perspectives. But eventually TV did start to fracture until we got multiple news channels from different perspectives.
Populism is cancer? I mean, yeah. I mean, it just preys on people's most, like, animalistic natures, or, like, most tribalistic natures, without actually offering any real solutions, right? He's gonna fix it all, yeah.
First, Fox News with its more right-wing nationalist perspectives, then MSNBC with a more progressive left-wing perspective. But even then, TV was a relatively centralizing force because so much of it was available. And there were lots of rules and regulations that had built up over the years. The internet isn't like this. It is the opposite of this. But there has been another media revolution very much like this. The first one, the printing press. The movable type printing press, at least the version used in Europe, was invented by a guy named Johannes Gutenberg to solve the problem of every book in Europe being written by hand, which does seem like a difficult way to do things. For a long time after Gutenberg started making Bibles, no one really knew what to do with print technologies. Books were big and expensive, and there just wasn't that much demand for them. That demand was mostly soaked up by the most powerful institutions out there, which is largely the Catholic Church, the only church of note in Europe. But then a guy had an idea. He, like lots of other people, did not like how the dominant system was operating. And there had been many arguments about that over the years. But instead of just talking about it, he went to a printer and he said, hey, print me 105-page pamphlets. And that was way easier for the printer than making a whole book. It was cheap. The printing press was already there. All they needed was the paper and the ink. This guy's name was Martin Luther. And you might know him from one of the things he made, Lutheranism. People could pay just a little bit for a pamphlet like that.
Yes, the OG Martin Luther. Good old jukebox thing for the prime.
You'd actually make quite a lot of money as a printer doing it. You could create an economy around that. Printers, in their off time, could just print up a bunch of Martin Luther's pamphlets and sell them themselves. Martin Luther, interestingly, just like everyone on Twitter, didn't actually make any money selling these pamphlets. It was the people with the presses who got paid, and Luther was just doing it because he wanted to get his message out. Familiar. And again, I have to try and get in touch with how weird this must have felt to the people at the time. Books were big and expensive, and for hundreds of years, the ideas of a normal person owning one would have been ludicrous. And so almost all of the people who were printing anything were really big, powerful institutions. But now there was this thing that was like a book, and it had ideas. Ideas that weren't the ideas of the powerful people who controlled the books. They were new ideas from a guy who wasn't particularly powerful. And the powerful people really didn't like these ideas. And it seems that Martin Luther realized that the more inflammatory his writing got, the more people wanted to buy the pamphlets and the more printers wanted to print them. And to be fair, the institutions of the time were not undeserving of critique. Now, Martin Luther was not the only person who printed pamphlets like these, but he was very good at it. I didn't really understand this for the first couple of decades after knowing that Martin Luther existed and that the Reformation was a thing, but this guy was a social media influencer, and he was also not chill. He was a reckless guy. You might not be super surprised to hear this, but he hated Jews. During a peasant rebellion, which was in part actually inspired by his work, he called on landowners to just kill the peasants, likening them to dogs that needed to be put down. Somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 of them.
It's like that one short from Funky Frog Bait. It's like everyone in history that ever said anything good also said like 500 horrible things. Because no, let me show it to you guys 1 second.
I mean, seriously.
Learning about any male historical figure.
His legacy has impacted millions of people.
Oh my god, this guy sounds amazing.
Yeah, he also cheated on his wife.
Oh! I mean...
Yeah. He cheated on her like a lot, like a lot. Like the moment she was out of sight, he was inside whatever woman he could get his hands on.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever his wife would try to write something, he would set it on fire in front of her and say, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." And then he'd like lock her in the attic because he had this theory that the female brain is only good for cooking and cleaning.
Why? Why?
Yeah, he eventually divorced her and abandoned his 7 children, and she was so sad about it, she threw herself in front of a train. But you know, he was just a product of his time. I mean, seriously.
It's such a good clip. It's such a good clip. It's such a good short. Man always gets a little rush out of telling people John Lennon beat wife. Anyways, that funky frog bait video, but like also every single historical figure that did anything good hated either Black people, Jewish people, women, or all of the above. Just like consistent, like pick any single one, just pick any single one. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna piss, but I have my earbud in, so I'm still listening.
Them were killed. He called the Pope the Antichrist. He was not a chill guy with the rhetoric, is all I'm saying, though it should be said several times the Catholic Church in the 16th century was worse. Just absolutely very bad. I don't feel like I necessarily need to get into it, but pretty evil. And also, in addition to being inflammatory, Martin Luther was an exceptional theologian. His arguments were good. That's part of the reason why he was so popular back then, and indeed remains fairly popular now. And again, there were, at first, because it was also new, no regulations on this new form of media in law, and just as importantly, none in the minds of people. And there were regulations on calling the Pope the Antichrist, and Martin Luther was excommunicated, but he did manage to survive, which is amazing to me. Like, he lived. I would love someone to explain to me how he was not just killed. But when you look at the details of this, it is all much more Twitter screaming match than I had first imagined it would be. It was very conversational. People were mad at each other, and they wrote pamphlets back and forth, and they hated each other. They were just mean. Erasmus was a friend and also eventual rival of Martin Luther, and in his last ever letter to Martin Luther, he wrote, "What distresses me, as it distresses all decent people, is the fact that because of your arrogant, insolent, and turbulent personality, you cause a fatal dissension that unsettles the whole world. You expose good men and lovers of the humanities to the fury of the Pharisees, and you arm wicked and rebellious men for revolution." There is a similarity between Martin Luther and Father Coughlin and Donald Trump and many other anti-establishment populists who rose to power after media revolutions. And it is that they all were, if nothing else, reckless. As a person who has a fairly significant platform and is often terrified that I will say something that is incorrect or will have an overall negative impact on the world, this is kind of hard for me to understand. But Martin Luther did not like that his words had resulted in armed conflict and death, but he simply could not stop talking. He felt that he was right, and of course, about many things he was, and that was far more important to him than any potential unintended consequences. Tearing down the corrupt institutions of the Catholic Church resulted in a complete
Hi, pissered. Why is everyone scattering? What were you guys doing?
fracturing of their
Dude, I feel that though, Martin Luther. Being a yapper, I fucking feel that. Sometimes you just can't shut the fuck up.
hegemony, and there's basically nothing that has happened since in European history that was not influenced by that. Was the Reformation entirely caused by the printing press? Of course not. There were many factors that happened all at the same time. Enough people, for example, needed to be able to read for it to happen, and that took a long time to occur. But I don't think anybody's out there arguing that it wasn't an important piece of the puzzle. So there is something happening over and over again here in weirdly the same way, which is that there are big institutions that kind of make society work, and they're always some level of imperfect. And when there is a media revolution, really any time, whether it's radio or newspapers or pamphlets, there is a rise lies in populism. It helps when there are
Thank you for telling me to refresh. I didn't even realize we have Christmas emotes, guys.
other problems going on at the same time, like, for example, a bunch of post-pandemic inflation, or the Catholic Church is maybe overextending its reach a little bit by selling the ability to get into heaven, or there's a Great Depression. But the media revolution plays an important role. We got to get it out of our heads, and I have this problem too, that this somehow aligns with current political ideologies of the left and right in the US. But in general, there are times when it is more from the left, and by which I mean that the enemy that has created all of the problems are the wealthy, who gather the power around themselves and use it to control everyone else. And then there are times when the populism is more right-wing, when the enemy is the group with like an unaligned cultural identity, whether that's immigrants or Jews or another race or something like that. Nationalistic populism or socialistic populism. But honestly, populism is about marketing, so these things blend together. Populism in America right now is clearly from the right. It's from the right-wing political party, but it has a sting of socialistic populism where people deserve support as long as they are the right people. The people who have built those systems are the cultural elites. Not necessarily the wealthy precisely, but certainly some of them are wealthy, and certainly they are like the high status caste of soft-skinned, overeducated wine drinkers. But it's not like there's nothing to attack. Like, it's not like there's no problems. Anti-establishment populism at this moment was inevitable, both because our systems are imperfect and people's situations are not great, and because of this intense decentralized media revolution. Like, we need to remember that this shift to authority decentralized media revolution. Like, we need to remember that this shift to authority.
I mean, the fact that anyone can get on the internet and get lied to by AI, and that there are like probably millions of boomers that use Facebook that have fallen for at least one AI post, is unbelievably concerning. Can you explain the connection of this to Asmund drama? I don't know about any Asmund drama. I just saw a video from Asmongold trying to explain why like society is the way that it is now, and it was just a bunch of slop and like word salads, and I wanted to compare it to a video like this that actually fundamentally explains how media revolutions and how popular opinions happen. Like how we get to these points in time, but in a way that's actually explained well. Decided to pull Asmund's stream for a quick second, and he's philosophically analyzing the potential of AI girlfriends on OnlyFans creators' businesses. Excellent. Wonderful. Nice. Good.
Authoritarians is not
Great,
a post-COVID
excellent
phenomenon. This is an internet phenomenon.
Yes. So like this is a perfect example of why I showed the Asmongold video first. He tries to explain that like kids are mentally stunted because of things like COVID lockdowns, but it's just a complete dog shit argument. Like that's not why. 1 year of lockdown does not do enough damage to like the psyche of like children. It's just not. You know what does? Kids growing up watching Asmongold, or sorry, not Asmongold, sorry, why did I say Asmongold? Andrew Tate talking about how you need to get bitches in cars and you need to show these hoes what they should be doing for you and all this other shit. Like, it's the proliferation of dog shit content from dog shit ideologies that is very easy to scroll through and click at and look at as a kid or like a teenager. I missed you more than Ethan Klein misses his Sabra hummus. 1 year of lockdown and mass and perpetual fear can absolutely affect a kid. The problem is that kids are just not afraid of things because kids don't understand things. So this perpetual fear that like adults experience, it's just not something that the kids experience. I mean, I remember like my parents being concerned or afraid about certain things. And as a kid, I just didn't understand them. So I didn't care about them. Like these were such foreign notions to me, and these were so far away from me that it didn't matter. I was too busy worried about my grades and worried about getting bullied at school to give a fuck about like COVID or some shit like that, or the flu or whatever, right? Or the 2008 housing crisis. Yeah. Yeah. And also, when I was talking about COVID, or I was talking about the mental, the emotional stunting of children, I was saying that that is not nearly as bad as the fucking rot that kids are getting scrolling through TikTok and just video after video after video after video. Like, that is way fucking worse. And it's just not even close.
Imagine Donald Trump without Twitter. You can't. I know that the bureaucracies of today are better and more transparent than those of the 1930s, or especially 1470, but they are imperfect. Obviously, there are real problems in our society, whether that's how easy it is to get unhealthy food or how hard it is to get good medical treatment or childcare. There are lots of real reasons to be pissed off. Communication is what we do. It is the thing that makes us human. And when a technology like the social internet hits, it's a big deal. Back when print happened, it was the first time any person who did not have a huge amount of power could use a nonverbal form of communication on a lot of other people. And then when radio happened, it was the first time one person could reach millions at the same time. Now, we've lowered that print barrier so far that it isn't just like some overeducated priest like Martin Luther who has access. It's everybody. And it's not just one person who...
And that's why we have shit like this.
So, yeah, some bitch try to say, oh, well, like, you're so mean. Why are you such a bully? Whatever. I'm like, bitch, why are you on Overwatch? You need to be overwatching a fucking kitchen and overwatching a sandwich for a man who's superior to you that's probably overwatching your dumb ass whore ass. But you're over here playing with me, running a mercy, not healing me because you fucking suck at the game and you got no fucking awareness because women have no awareness with anything besides how much makeup they got on their face. Oh, which, by the way, is always too much because it's a makeup for their lack of aesthetics. These fucking sluts, why not video games? Back in the day, when I played video games, Halo 2, if I heard a female in the fucking lobby, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Give that bitch the Timberland boot out the fucking lobby. But now these whores have taken over video games. Like, I'm fucking shocked. I haven't played in fucking years. Come back. I'm gonna pick this character. Bitch, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are women on video games? Why are they even streaming themselves play video games? They fucking suck. Every single gamer sucks. Female gamers suck. I fucking said it. They're trash. They got no awareness. Nothing. They suck. So, yeah, some bitch try to...
Hitler 1 and Hitler 2, I see. Let me say a couple of things really quickly. 1, posted without commentary. Insights into sexism, male status, and performance moderates female-directed, hostile, and amicable behavior. You guys are welcome to read this study yourself, okay? And take a look at how they found this information. But they tracked a bunch of games. They tracked Toxicity. And do you know what they found? They found the following. Our study demonstrates that video games offer a unique opportunity to examine variation in sexist behaviors and the situations that result in changes in sexist attitudes. By demonstrating that female-directed hostility primarily originates from low-status, poorer-performing males, our results suggest that a way to counter it may be through teaching young males that losing to the opposite sex is not socially debilitating. Oh. You mean to tell me that the sexist dudes are just the bottom fraggers? Literally skill issue. Anytime you see a guy screaming like this, just know that he's a bottom fragger. He's the type of guy that goes 0-10, feeds all game, and then screams like a little bitch because his team didn't help him enough. Because he needs help. He needs help to win a game because he can't win him himself.
Denims, I've almost hit the 3-year mark. Alexa, play Enemy
No.
by Imagine Dragons.
No.
Alexa, set volume to maximum and engage in lockout mode.
No.
I wake up to the sound.
No. Thank you for the 35 months. Holy shit. Low self-esteem has been related to punching down and to raise one's personal self-esteem and does not occur with high self-esteem. Very consistent with intergroup self-esteem theory. This has been everybody's known about this, okay? Show the following, you showing your anime profile picture CS squad causing rage is so good. Yes, I showed it earlier, but yeah, this is why me and my friends played CSGO and got a bunch of matching anime profile pictures, specifically so that we could top frag, win, and then make the Myrons of the world pissed that they lost to this. And it doesn't show it, but the anime profile pictures were also animated. Because it is very tilting to lose to this. Second thing I was going to say, all right? A second thing, I don't know, I'm pretty bad at video games. I don't say stuff like that. Oh, no. It's not that low-performing males always are sexist. It's that sexist males that play video games by large tend to be low-performing. The other thing I'm going to say is this is so obviously poor performance, because if you're blaming your mercy for why you're losing, that tells me all I need to know, okay? As a tank player, anytime someone blames their healers, that tells me all I need to know. It's like, oh, you suck. You can't maintain LOS of your healers, so you keep dying. You should play better. The only people you're allowed to blame for not healing is Moira players, because that's just factually true. Okay, I'm sorry, it's just true. It is objectively just true. But if you're at the point where you're blaming your mercy, again, as a tank main, you are a poor performing player. It's just the truth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're just a shitty DPS player. What's LOS? Line of sight. That you maintain line of sight so that your healers can heal you. Whereas if you go to bumfuck Idaho, they can't heal you because they can't see you because you suck. It's very simple. But most importantly, all right, more important than any of these. But if most players are low rank, most sexist players are going to be low rank too? No? Yeah. I mean, play any video game. When you get to higher ranks, people stop acting this way. This is just true. I'm telling you, as someone who's climbed playing a lot of different characters over a lot of different games and a lot of different skill levels, the lowest, like the lower you go, the more and more annoying and bitchy your teammates get. And the higher and higher you go, when I was playing master games in Overwatch, people are very respectful because they want to win the game. So when they hear someone on the team, they're like, yeah, just, you need to play here. Guys, we need to play this way. We need to play this way. That's okay. It's okay. Lost, just regroup. Don't triggle. But once you're in like bottom rank, when you're playing gold ranks, it's all just people just getting tilted over nothing because they suck. So they start raging and screaming. And again, if this is true of any video game, if you play in low ranks in video games, more of these players exist. And if you play in high ranks in the same game, there are way less people like this. Way less. Because also you have to understand that getting tilted makes you worse at video games. So there's less tilt at the highest ranks because you have to not be tilted so that you can play well. So generally the people who climb are the people who can control their tilt, or they realize when they're tilted and they take a break. Instead of just spamming ranked queue, spam rank queue. I need to lose 15 games in a row so I can play my teammates. Card and fighting games are the best examples of this. I didn't really ever get into card or fighting games. I tried Magic like once or twice and I was like, not for me. And when it comes to fighting games, I just like spam my buttons. I never got into it. I'm a shooters person. I like MOBAs a little too. But I believe that it's the truth. It's also true in fighting games as well. What about Balatro? Balatro? I haven't played it. It's the one remedy. Oh, sorry, it's the one thing that I need to fix. All I will say is the masses agree with me. Hit tweet. Silence female gamers. A pedophile is talking. 69K likes. Nice. I know you're a DJ and gamer. Are you going to play PO2 Friday? Do you think anyone's going to be playing? The servers are going to be flooded. The servers are not going to work. No one's going to be playing that game. I'll play on Saturday, though. Getting tilted at teammates doesn't just make you worse. It's indicative of focusing on others rather than improving your own gameplay, which will keep you from ranking up. Yeah, the most important thing, Chad, if anyone here actually wants to rank up, I'm currently trying to rank up in CS. The most important thing to note is you have to carry every game if you want to win. And if you watch people who are very good at video games, they carry every game that they win. Or sorry, they carry every single game that they play. I mean, go watch Tyler 1 playing bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, master, grandmaster. He up until probably like, I don't know, master, he has to carry every game. You should expect your teammates to suck. It should be a pleasant surprise when they don't suck. That's the rule. And I remember when I learned about this concept when I was trying to learn how to play Overwatch, and it changed the chemicals in my brain. And I got so much better because what you're not realizing is every single game that you play, you are making tens, if not hundreds of mistakes. You're peeking in instances you shouldn't peek. You're pushing in instances you shouldn't push. You're missing shots that you shouldn't be missing. You're taking dumb, you're ulting in stupid ways. You're using your abilities in stupid ways. You're not working with your team. Every single game you play, you are making a billion mistakes. So instead of sitting there getting mad that your teammates are making dumb mistakes, you should watch your own gameplay just to realize how many dumb mistakes you're making. And once you start fixing those, you'll start climbing. What about when you suck? Should you expect your randoms to suck more? No. When you suck, you need to learn how to suck less, okay? Unless you're a particular liberal streamer. All right, that was the last joke I'm going to say about that topic. Unless you play just for fun, in which case, if you play just for fun, just play for fun. Who cares? Anyways. Just aim better, bro. Just click on their fucking heads, dude. Just click their heads. If you can't click their heads, you deserve to lose, all right? That's the philosophy you should have. And I will tell you, when you place the blame on yourself, when you're the reason you win and you're the reason you lose, you get tilted less often because you stop caring about how good your teammates are. Because you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I pushed that. I don't know why I ulted there. That was such a fucking stupid ult. And then you stop making those mistakes because you stop wasting time focusing on people whose actions you can't control. Unless you're duo queuing, in which case I think if you're duo queuing, you can criticize the person you're duoing with a little bit. You can be like, hey, when I do this, can you do this? Yeah, that's fine. But my 10% accuracy rate is my team's fault, Copium. No, dude, Copium, I'm in loser's queue. Copium, they keep putting me in loser's queue. Do you like any strategy games? I mean, I got into, what's the one where you... Well, they're all like that. I was gonna say where you do fucking war crimes. Crusader Kings. I played Crusader Kings a good amount. And then I got super addicted to Stellaris. RimWorld is less of a strategy game and more of a sim game, I think. The two strategy games I've played a lot of. I've played a lot of other strategy games a little bit, but Crusader Kings and Stellaris. I finally get to watch you live. I'm coming over from YouTube. Welcome from YouTube. Hi. As someone who hasn't played Overwatch in years, I'm feeling so called out. Yeah, I was very addicted to Overwatch. I was super addicted. I really love that game. I don't know if you guys have played Overwatch Classic, which is out. It's out for the rest of today. I've been playing. I'm going to cry. I'm going to Brian kill me if they don't make it permanent. Because Fortnite introduced no build mode, and then they made it permanent because they realized how much people missed it, and I miss Overwatch Classic. I miss it so much. It was so much fun. I've been